this new virtual reality, the Matrix, instead of another.
Take two.
This inspired them to introduce magic into the Matrix to entice humans to stay in so long as they enjoy the challenge. He looked at Emily again. The magical elements granted Baez allowed them to get away with granting magical wishes. Immortality, powers of epic size. Liu answered in his usual deadpan manner as he laughed. Maybe they shouldn't have told you. Emily stared at him deeply as her mind evidently raced against itself as she tried to figure out how much Lucy knew about the technology involved. And she just shook her head as she looked around quickly while blinking rapidly at the same time. All right, where are we going from here? She shook her head again before snapping her fingers. Then let's get notified. She suddenly scurried out of her chair to her right, then turned towards Rebecca Mason's desk as she pointed down the main aisle with her right index finger to indicate that they should each follow her. As quickly as possible, Rosemary scurried out of Emily's side down towards Rebecca Mason's desk, sped right past Rebecca Mason's desk and quickly disappeared. Sydney tries to cast a cantrip. Self-buffing cantrip failed. -2 skill damage entered. Skill failed due to insufficient self-awareness of safety precautions. Sydney tried to cast a cantrip. Self-buffing cantrip failed. Hatched by self-awareness of safety precautions required during use. It will now cost 100% of skills spent on the self-buffing cantrip. -2 skill damage entered. Incrementing skill damage caused by hacking into various computer systems through increased user training and awareness of safety precautions, as well as gaining lots of time studying human behavior and mass psychology through various social. Media platforms due to being non-corporeal for years with an artificial form that looks like me. Skill damage caused by hacking into various computer systems through increased user training and awareness of safety precautions, as well as gaining lots of time studying human behavior and mass psychology through various social media platforms due to being non-corporeal for years with an artificial form that looks like me. Deleted content of deleted scene would have included Elizabeth lamenting that she didn't recognize Joseph de Mazière, the unrepresentative for Sierra Leone near Kenscoff Rock when installing invisible drones over the Matsigan. Sydney grinds the environment at the dojo to get those skill points back and then some. Sydney is now back up to 30 skills per level instead of 16 per level. Sydney uses experience points gained in prior sessions to fully unlock new skills at 100%. New skills are now unlocked. Combat Absorption, Tier 1. Astral Spirit Form, Tier 1. Astral Weapon Form, Tier 1. Narrative Sense, Tier 2. Parables. Known Synchronicity, Tier 4. Narrative Sense Discrete Inflection, Tier 4. Narrative Sense Mapping Memory, Tier 4. Narrative Sense Synchronicity Thematic, Tier 4. Sydney gains 9 rare magical items from non-player characters as abilities. Metaphysical Armor. Air, which makes a part of her body intangible and has the ability to stop physical attacks harmlessly unless altered by magic. Wizard's Cape. Air makes wearer invisible in daylight. Put rebound on ice gives a temporary freeze effect. Phrenic Aegis enables women trained in naval combat wearing a special item to block all weapons of attack in their immediate vicinity. Sydney goes to the lavatory of size to solve the puzzle of the ship over the shitter. In the sewer, Sydney comes across a wyvern reproduction center which is retrieved by the sewer wardens for study purposes. Sydney comes across a test bag containing one of the infamous Tekka chips inside what looks like a certain durian amphibian used as a wizard's familiar. A piece of Tekka chips fell into the sewer. As it's made of advanced alien technology, no one knows how to operate it, but they feel it's important that it not get into the wrong hands because it's dangerous. Sydney examines the advanced alien technology used and a linguistic skill. She speaks through telepathy with a cybernetic soldier who uses alien machine language and answers any questions she may have about Tekka chips. The mechanic notes that if Sydney wears a Tekka chip next time she's in here fighting demons, it will act as an anchor point for her magic spells, letting her cast them off some distance from herself without needing magical focus. She learns that Tekka is a religion created by the aliens that believes galactic alignments are a stream of divine energy flowing through space, and that it is a state of mind to be able to tap into this energy for some special powers. Sydney speaks a witty alien limerick. A 4-meter wide spaceship held no treasure, it carried destruction instead. A planet drafter could not construct a new Earth. The world eventually reabsorbed us all. The humans are behaving much better these days. It is with great regret that I express sorrow over the atrocity occasioned by an android named Toxikovac. The knighted traitor Sinister McPherson is compelled to state the following words. That's why he has his own bloody shadow. Sydney continues her search for Vendoin Prime by going back into the sewers to find her. Sydney equips her Vorpal knife and rape whistle, walks into the sewers of Lavender Shores as a wyvern dragon, slips through spot sealing spell enchantments using enchanted Garrock wire, and just slices them open as she wyvern manipulates through their nerve tissue to free them. She then becomes a shadow demon. She uses illusion magic to hide from friendly suicide drones that give her an affirmative on their ghost blueprints after inspecting her equipment for magical residue. Yeah, she's still got magical weapons, triggers floating around her body after years of virtual combat exercises using virtual magic powers in processing centers. Whether because she's just lucky or because she's channeling god magic as well, Withershin shows up begging for her help against the relentless enemy attack and considers Sydney to be part of the squad when she arrives. Withershin informs Sydney that the other side has a skyhopper with machine guns that can cut through their defenses like butter. The residents of Lavender Shores are concerned that Vendoin Prime tried to murder their two prized artists, Kate Buckley, Quentin Van Skakosen, and kidnapped their youngest daughter and granddaughter for ransom. They accused her of being drunk or joking when she tried to escape the second kidnapping. They were devastated when she killed her attacker with her magic sword last night, but her killer said she had two fully armed guards protecting her at all times. Yet Vendoin Prime never attacked or tried to kill anyone else last night except the guy that attacked her, backed up by the sewer guard cannon. Sewer workers found a queen's ransom in gold-exempt currency in Vendoin Prime's sewer den last night at 2:53 a.m. Sydney relates. Core Center reports this money was rolled like toilet paper before it vanished. She further informs them that she found Vendoin Prime in his sewers last night as a monster growing up from a sewer fissure into a dragon. And Withershin is looking into some theories about Vendoin Prime harvesting those sewer workers as sacrificial lambs at midnight last night while assaulting Olivia. A resident suggests they should have hired Sydney as their new police commissioner. I'm open to the position, Sydney says and inquires about the role. The force has been commended for an efficient operation against Vendoin, primed by Avian Arnost as the new mayor of Lavender Shores. Sydney informs them. Avian also expressed her condolences over Vendoin's murder last night. The residents vote yes on nominating Sydney for police commissioner. Soon after, Avian is elected as mayor using public voice voting systems. Avian shakes Sydney's hand and says, "You're definitely a part of Lavender Shores now." "Welcome. It's a pleasure to be part of Lavender Shores," Sydney replies. She notices Tony disembarking from the shuttle like all the other passengers did before. His wheelchair at wheels so quiet even Avian and her husband didn't hear it approach their home. Sydney sees Tony is just as tall as the other adults in Lavender Shores despite being paralyzed from the waist down. His hands have a gentle pleasing feel though he appears awkward during his approach. "Hello, Tony," she says softly for Tony's ears only, as Tony does not know who Sydney is. Sydney glad hands and introduces herself to the city council. Still feeling awkward, Tony asks Sydney if they have any clothes like adult diapers for his condition. Among all the retail window displays for men's undergarments exhibited on one of the main streets downtown, Sydney notices Tony's eyes glancing at a fully nude mannequin dressed as a jock in blushing roses wearing nothing but the tax-exempt oversized scuba mask she wears when she's not doing any other stunts, but then he seems embarrassed and looks away. He realizes she's noticed him staring at her. Embarrassed, he suppresses his laughter and turns away so that he looks at nothing as he quietly chatters at her amusingly about how no one is allowed to make fun of the Golden Girls except in small doses, and always with permission first. He can only laugh at her joking. "I'm just gonna keep reminding myself you're my friend," Tony tells her. "You're on my list of people who aren't allowed to make fun of me." She laughs and says, "The list is getting longer every day." 2 minutes later, Tony is locked in concentration as he trains his mind to recharge itself faster than what it normally could do while maintaining physical form. He closes his eyes for an extended period of time before opening them to a wide smile while saying, "Oh, hey, Sydney, you think someone could knock before they come in?" "Of course." She frowns at him and says, "Sorry, my mistake," then walks towards him like she didn't know him just minutes before. "I need to restock some consumables with Tess," Sydney tells him as she mounts his wheelchair like Avian. Neo Rex would have done. That reason alone makes Tony feel safe with her around. He trusts her so implicitly. He can admit the fact that he has no other choice but to trust her. She politely takes her leave as he laughs with Opie like they've known each other for years instead of just an hour like Sydney did. As she departs, he looks at her as Angel spreads her wings with its toes on air. She waves just before leaving the window behind Avian. Only Avian pretends not to notice Sydney listening to them like she would eavesdrop on their conversation by just looking straight at them if it wouldn't be gauche. Sydney ignores her habits of spying on others even though she knows some people who say this makes her a good spy because she seems unfazed by such things. Sydney pushes Tony's wheelchair along the sidewalk until they come out opposite the mayor's office. "This is it," Sydney says suddenly. Sydney immediately moves Sandra into eavesdropping position nearby while Tony is still puzzled by where they were headed because he has no idea what this is really supposed to do besides just encouraging Sandra to work hard without interruptions. We fast forward to the end of the workday. A good day one. And now time to let it loose at the pub. Tony's happy because he likes work better than school or shopping when Sandra is around because it makes him feel more comfortable. But it also makes him feel isolated, especially when Sandra spends all night going on and on about something almost nothing else. Aubrey turns around the building with his key in hand while being followed by hundreds of Alice's eyes staring at Aubrey's every move. Not daring to look at his back to check if he is looking back at them because it would seem aggressive. So they maintain their gazes along different faces and angles of their monitor glasses as they plead him to stop or surrender. When suddenly Aubrey bangs his shoulder against the gutter while trying to prevent Alice's eyes from hitting his back. Aubrey waits for them to crawl down upon landing, losing their animosity in the process and using their ability as vicious though lax sentient monsters to rip down the bottom floor of buildings if Avian isn't there to wrest them away from their mouths. Avian hates jump scares. When finally he walks out into a street decorated with puddles from all of those now rain-relented rainstorms that Chicago gets every year. As Aubrey pushes his key into Tony's wheelchair lock, he thinks how artificial social practices can be so wrong and yet convince us they are right. Aubrey has this vague memory of Jess's cousin telling him if there was anyone in the world who had no emotional maturity, it was his partner Jake, which made Aubrey feel uneasy about Gabriel because he knew sometimes he said things like that for comedic value but felt like Jess's cousin was trying to force many words down his throat through a funnel, which made Aubrey think about how Finn could give him 5 words when he needed 1,000 other things said instead. Gabriel pulls up in front of Aubrey while letting his doors work like magic behind his cuteness. Aubrey gets out. Well, Gabriel asks as Aubrey begins walking toward Gabriel's car. Well, who? There is this nice little place over near Westlake that will be hosting my friend's poetry reading tonight. Shall we? Aubrey asks as he walks toward Gabriel's 2010 Camaro convertible already heated up before anyone managed to get inside. Sydney calls on Uber and tells the driver to take her to where Michelle Obama was raised. She taps her GPS app on her phone a couple of times, hoping to read Michelle's specific address, but she is told to get in touch with the taxi company or dispatch. She is then told the taxi company is no longer in business thanks to the lady herself. She calls a black car instead, paying with cash rather than credit card, paying off a premonition that blood may be shed there tonight. Oh. The ride only costs $12. She pays it off on her E-Trade account and transfers the remaining balance over to her checking account. She proceeds to pull up Michelle Obama. This childhood home address using Google Earth on her iPhone 6s Plus before giving it back at the end of the ride after paying for it on Venmo. She brings up the Mapcast app on her phone so she can print out directions and sets out from her mother's car in search of Michelle Obama's childhood home address amidst a world that hadn't changed a bit since Michelle got there some 20 plus years ago when she walked away from Dwayne Hayes' racist abuse once. She heard the judge order him to show up at her door daily for 2 years if he wanted any more of her time, or money after she'd taken counsel on his case. Michelle has only one simple goal: providing for her two children and allowing them to grow up, knowing there are many paths for individuals to strive for despite their circumstances, rather than being firmly imprinted by the culture into believing they would not amount to anything if they did not live up to what others want them to be or think they should be or shouldn't see, while being birthed into existence without any knowledge of anything else at all. Which isn't ignorance but intentional self-escapes from facts, leading down their prescribed structure of being acceptable or normal. Michelle never goes anywhere without her stellar Ebonics-style diction laced into sentences spoken with impeccable American sentences peppered with Ebonics dialects and cross-aggravations as she works to motivate students in one of Chicago's toughest housing projects by using their different talents and gifts so they can see themselves becoming something other than they think they will ever be, while helping her students become whatever they want to be. If you ask Michelle about Michelle, she may just start telling you about herself as she sits down on her chair that isn't in any of these pictures as she tends the garden that becomes more rich with every year she lives here, as these stories leave a surreal magic infusing whatever she tends with undivided attention as she thinks of how she would have loved it if she had these lessons earlier in life, as she shrugs away these regrets because she is finally realizing just how much she has done for herself and others around here, while shaking away her guilt for trusting an old flame too much because her old lover was there to help her because someone had betrayed her like everyone else had betrayed Michelle before she met Marcus Reed. Barry, you know, I'm exist, you know? Madam President. Well, I mean, yes, but not really. Barry. Okay. Whatever you say, Madam President. Madam President, you don't have time for that now. Let me take you to the Oval Office. Barry, wait. Let me finish this song first. This one is special. Madam President. Oh, jeez. Flash thing or real thing? Barry, I don't care. You know it's real. Madam President. No, Barry. Sydney. Is this because I had Barry speak a typo? Madam President, Barry is right. We need to make it real. You know what happens when people try to rule the world without God in any way. Only evil can befall people. Look at those poor whites. They act like victims of slavery. You know old Barry thinks he's going to rule this place soon. It's getting dangerous around here. If anyone other than Barry is around when the rapture comes. Good luck to them all. Sydney, according to WikiLeaks buffers, SMG can't be reconfigured for SWAT use because the safety design requires that. Very fast-moving parts be exposed as part of the safety design, and you can't allow civilians to accidentally shoot themselves with fast-moving parts or indeed anyone else, because someone could easily be hurt or killed by a very fast-moving part moving even faster, because no fire use would be possible in such a circumstance. Madam President, this is why we're losing this election. We need strong leaders for this country. Barry knew there was something happening with Lily. He figured out things would get ugly before he betrayed women and men like us. He knew he had to take the fall for us all. Sydney, the problem with his statements is that they don't contain a set of actions for an event. They only talk about what's going to happen if the event occurs. Performing actions after a certain event has occurred requires an entirely different kind of program called conditional statements. Madam President, no, you need a program to update those programs reporting as an event happens. Oh no, the content is looking up the internet, but nothing is showing up that's good enough. Sydney, other than stop saying things that are untrue. Did Kelly just say we need strong leaders for this country? Madam President, no. Let me rephrase that better. Freddy knows how to take these leaders and make them better. Freddy knows what's best for people as he aspires to be one himself. And now to introduce the rest of our leading candidates, Mr. Wendell Waters. Your qualifications are, you have held every position in this campaign, both as president and as an underling from press secretary to campaign manager for Governor Gary Cooper. That makes you perfect for something like this to keep everybody focused on the right things. Sydney, as a queer woman, Freddie knows how hard it is to be a minority who has been neglected by white males who've been trying to run things, so he will make things better. Madam President, Freddie knows how hard it is for someone like Freddie Cooper here because he has been given many chances by folks who were much more privileged than him. Freddie is one lucky man. So he knows how hard it's been for him and how things really should be run. Sydney. No, Freddie knows how hard it is, so he's going to change things for everyone. Madam President, Freddie wants to make things better for us all. Sydney. Freddie is going to make all the wrong choices. Madam President, Freddie wants us all to be equal so we aren't in poverty or unemployed thanks to him wanting us all on the same career path. Sydney, Freddie is going to make people upset because he wants everyone else to be happy. Madam President, our world will be much happier. Sydney, Freddie is going to shock his audience with his sheer brilliance in order to kill the next part of their attention span. Madam President, people will now find themselves on a path of happiness. Sydney, Freddie's going to make everyone's lives better. Madam President, and we will all be much, much richer. Chuckles.